Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here specifically on 2475. I'm speaking on behalf of the Rhode Island chapter of the National Organization of Women. I am a poster child for being underpaid. When I started my work in 1967, I was so grateful to have a job that I took it. And I did not have a college degree. I only had 2 years of college, and I started out working in New York at a publishing firm, and because I couldn't type, I really couldn't get a good job. So my first salary was $75 a week in New York City. From there, I worked there for 4 years. I went to a department store, and I entered their management program. At that time, I was entered as an executive C. All women were, but men were executive Bs. So a gentleman I was in a training class with came in, and he had worked in a grocery store. And he was an executive B, and he was making, nobody discussed salary in those days, but he was making much more than I was. And women who were graduating from the Fashion Institute of Technology, who had studied merchandising and were going to be buyers, well, they were executive Cs too. So finally, in 1972, the light dawned, and we thought we were going to get equal pay. I have never received equal pay for any job I was in, and that includes, and Senator Lombardi, I hope you forgive me because you're going to hear it again tonight, that I was in human resources for a major publishing firm. And I hired...
For 17 years.
17 and a half. I have a Yankee shirt that says 17 years. I'll wear it next time. But I learned how compensation pools work, and they're never in favor of women. And what I did was I hired non-exempt people, and I had a hiring range. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bore anybody, but I didn't know how it worked, but I know now. You have a hiring range of 0 to 10%. So the first thing I was required to ask these secretaries and administrative assistants was how much money they were making, because immediately I could then determine what salary I was going to offer them. So if they were at the top of the range, their education had to match. But if they were at the lower end of the range, I was like, psych, I've got a good hire. My hiring manager is going to be happy because they don't have to pay that much money. I mean, it was a pretty good salary, but it wasn't great. Then I figured out that I didn't realize that you have a pool. And this is companies, I would say companies over 100 probably have it too. You have pools of money that you allocate to give people raises. Well, that's a rigged pool too, because then you're given standards of, well, if you have 20 people in your department, only one can exceed expectations, because then you have to give them more money. So everybody has to fall in meets expectations when they're reviewed. And if you fall below expectations, well, it's probably not a good employee. So in the 17 and a half years I worked, I got one exceeds expectations for a salary raise. Every year I would get a salary raise, but it would always be in the meet expectations, 1 to 2%. So when you start out low, you don't end up high. So one year I looked at my boss and I said, honestly, the only reason I'm not getting an exceeds expectations is I have a husband who works in publishing also. And Mike Munson, who's head of human resources in Des Moines and heads it up, knows he doesn't have to pay me as much that I'm worth. And then I went out and cried because I was really scared, but I got it. So when we are here talking about all the good things in Senator Golden's bill, I've seen it firsthand. And I've been underpaid all my life, and every time I look at my Social Security, I see the 10 years I was penalized for not working for raising my children. And I see the 17 and a half years that I was a good employee, and I followed all the rules, and I was always penalized. This is an important bill. Women work as hard as men. We're in the 21st century, 2 decades into it. We need to pay people what they're worth. And the system is rigged. And it's there to protect the people and their bottom line. It seriously is. I understand what the business side is saying, but I also understand why they're saying that, because I've seen the other side of it. So I really urge you to pass this bill. It's so important. Thank you very much.